And now we move on to the next speaker.
Okay.
So 12 minutes, sorry, 12 minutes starting
Yes.
now.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for organizing this meeting and for all the great talks that we've heard in the first several days. I'm going to present a new methodology for mostly data cleaning. This methodology helps us to improve the quality of photometric redshift catalogs. So just a little bit of the background on the photometric redshifts. Basically, in order to convey cosmological and galaxy evolution surveys, we have to obtain redshifts for millions of galaxies. But spectroscopy is way too slow method to provide us with this number of redshifts. So massive surveys, current and upcoming surveys, they rely on photometric redshifts, which is a method that uses the following approach. Basically, we treat photometry as a very rough resolution spectroscopy. And when some prominent spectroscopic feature moves from one band to another, it causes a decrease or increase of the flux in this band. And from this increase or decrease, we can calculate the position of this spectroscopic feature and consequently the redshift of the galaxy. Quite a number of already existing surveys and the upcoming cosmological surveys like LSST and Euclid rely on obtaining precise photometric redshifts. They are obviously not so precise as spectroscopic ones, but we have to use what we have. There are two main approaches of obtaining photometric redshifts. It's classical, historically first set-fitting approach and machine learning. Set-fitting relies on already existing template of spectral energy distributions of galaxies. And a library of these templates is, every template from this library is being redshifted, is being convoluted with transmission curves of a given instrument and compared with the observed photometry of a given galaxy. And the best fit of template and redshift gives us answer what is the redshift of this galaxy. Machine learning instead relies on the existence of so-called knowledge base of a representative sample of galaxies for which we know both photometry and spectroscopy. And machine learning algorithms tries to derive a correspondence between multiband photometry, multidimensional photometry, and spectroscopic redshift. And then the trained model can predict spectroscopic, photometric redshifts given only photometry. Apart from these two main methods, there is a number of supporting techniques that have been very extensively investigated in the last 10 years. It's hybridization of these two methods, introducing priors, additional information, etc., anything to improve photometric redshifts, because our cosmological research relies on it very much. Now, we are presenting one of such supporting techniques, and it appeared from our investigation, from our attempt to obtain photometric redshifts with machine learning method for Cosmos 2015 catalog. This dataset is one of the best datasets for this kind of task because it contains around 30 band photometry for more than 500,000 of galaxies. And for these galaxies, already set template fitting photo Z have been already obtained by the authors of this catalog. So we expected that obtaining machine learning photo Z with already tested, well-tested algorithm MLP-Q&A that was developed in our group some years ago, we expected that the machine learning photo Z are going to be very good for this dataset, but it did not happen. Basically, what we discovered is that photometric redshifts, both obtained with machine learning and with set-fitting algorithms, are significantly worse than photometric redshifts for previous studies for SDSS and for KIDS, for example. What captured our attention is significantly higher percentage of outliers. We started to think what's going on, why the results are not so good as we expected. And after considering several opportunities, we found out that our spectroscopic redshift catalog was to blame. The thing is that our spectroscopic redshift catalog was a combination of multiple catalogs obtained with different instruments of different quality. And spectroscopic redshifts also sometimes have mistaken values. So this is exactly what spoiled our results. Fortunately, since this catalog was combined of several catalogs, we had some objects for which we had multiple measurements, and that allowed us to convey the following analysis. We divided our catalog at 3 categories of objects with only single measurement of spectra Z, of multiple measurements that are in good agreement with each other, and with multiple measurements that do not agree with each other. And of course, we discovered that as a percentage of outliers for these 3 groups is really different, especially noticeable that objects for which spec-Z measurements are in agreement, there are very few outliers. And if spectra-Z measurements are different, then yes, of course, we cannot rely on them. So everything that is called outlier in this group is most likely that we used incorrect spec-Z measurement. Now, this is not a new problem. It has been reported more or less since 90s, since photometric redshifts do exist. But how to solve this issue? How to figure out what are these outliers? Are they bad spectra Z measurements or they are mistake of photo Z algorithm? Usually, there is only one way to do it, by inspection, by manual inspection of every dubious spectra. But it's possible if we have dozens of outliers. But for the upcoming surveys that will obtain spectroscopic redshifts, or for SDSS, for example, we are going to have hundreds, thousands, dozens of thousands of outliers. We cannot inspect them all. So this is where our method kicks in. Basically, our approach is to use a well-known dimensionality reduction algorithm, self-organizing maps, in a bit unorthodox way as an anomaly detection algorithm. Self-organizing maps, also known as SOM, they work in such a way that they map a multidimensional data set on 2-dimensional map in such a way that 2 data points that were neighbors in the original parameter space, they remain neighbors on the final map. So basically, we are obtaining a map of cells, and within each cell, we have photometrically similar galaxies. Obviously, we expect that spectra Z values, that redshifts of these galaxies are going to be similar as well. So if we look at the distribution of spec Z values within each cell, if we identify an outlier within cell, most likely this is something strange, either instrumental error or sometimes in some rare cases, anomalous objects, physically anomalous like AGNs. So we tried to discard these in-cell anomalies. And of course, we found out that the percentage of outliers drops significantly. Basically, 1 order of magnitude improvement is what we are obtaining, which is a win, which proves that our method can be used for cleaning the data used for photometric redshifts investigation. Now we won. Very good. We can go home, have some tea. But if we look carefully at the results, we can suspect that we can use this anomaly detection algorithm for further improvements, namely to improve set-fitting photo-Z algorithms, photo-Z catalog. Because the percentage of outliers obtained with this method is higher than percentage of outliers obtained with machine learning. And this is also a known issue, a known difference between these 2 algorithms. Set-fitting is a little bit more prone to producing degenerate solutions. So if we can discard anomalous spec-Zs, can we discard anomalous set-fitting photometric redshifts? Yes, of course. Actually, if we look at the self-organizing maps cohort with mean values of spectroscopic and photometric redshifts, and with standard deviation, in-cell standard deviation of the distribution of spectroscopic redshifts and photometric redshifts, we can notice that the map of standard deviation for photo-Z has a number of cells where obviously something very wrong is happening. Obviously, there are some strange predictions. So if we remove these in-cell anomalies in terms of set-fitting photo-Z, We also get an improvement, basically around half of the outliers for set fitting photo Z. We can discard them in this way. And of course, we have to consider that this is a cleaning without this previous Z-spec anomaly detection removal. So basically, if we remove both anomalous spec Z and anomalous set fitting predictions, we will get even better results. Now, there is one last thing for which we propose to do. Basically, there is a known issue with machine learning methods is that they cannot produce reliable results outside of the parameter space of the knowledge base that was used for training this model. And in case of photometric redshift problems, it is often the case. The difference between, basically, it is often that photometric catalog, the overall photometric catalog, is much deeper than spectroscopic knowledge base. And usually the solution here is just to cut out all the faint objects. But with self-organizing maps, we can propose better solution. We can train self-organizing maps with run dataset, with the whole photometric dataset. We can project train dataset on it. And we can say that all the cells where we don't have training data, we cannot produce good predictions for these cells. So we just discard objects that belong to these cells. And indeed, if we use this kind of training, this kind of calibration, train map occupation cleaning, we are getting serious improvements for the run dataset. For testing this, we used an independent and slightly deeper spec Z catalog demos. And we found out that from around 10% of outliers originally, we got around only 2% of outliers in the end. And we saved around half of the objects that would be just cut out by the cutout procedure that is usually adopted in these cases. So to conclude, with the methodology that we propose, we can solve right away 3 problems. We can reduce around 90% of unreliable spectre Z values. We can significantly reduce the percentage of strange predictions, of mispredictions of set fitting photo Z outliers. And we can guarantee that our machine learning method will be making predictions for those objects for which it can make predictions. So I will conclude here. Thank you. Your questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. There is time for a few questions. We have certainly some interested attendees. Well, if no one wants to ask a question, I might ask you your sum algorithms. Is it similar to something like principal component analysis in some sense, or is this really?
It is only slightly. Basically, principal component analysis is much simplified version of self-organizing maps. In fact, we use principal component analysis at the first stage of self-organizing maps to produce the initial weights of our map.
Okay.
It is these 2 algorithms are similar in the sense that they are both dimensionality reduction algorithms, so they allow to select lesser components of the multidimensional data set.
Okay, there's still time for a question or 2. I don't see any hands raised. If I may follow up, perhaps would it not be possible also to look at other catalogs, simply supplement more information coming from, say, cross-matching with other catalogs? Is that not perhaps like AGN catalogs or some?
Well, basically, we used AGN catalog in this particular research to remove AGNs because for AGNs predicting, yes, because predicting photometric redshifts for agents is a little bit separate kind of task. So if you know the agents, you have to obtain photometric redshifts for them separately. In general, cross-matching catalogs, of course, it is useful if, for example, there are additional spectroscopic redshifts catalogs. It's a good idea. But for Cosmos 2015, everything that is possible to match, it's being matched on the go because this is like a benchmark data set. So everything is already there.
Okay, thank you very much. Tomoyuki, I'm afraid there's no time for a second question, Tomoyuki. Sorry, we have to. Thank you again. Thank you very much for a great talk.